Dear friends, we are having a conversation on feminism, pseudo feminism versus inclusive feminism. And in the podcast that we just had, we had a conversation, and there are arguments for and against. Now, what is feminism, or why did this thing come about? That's because in nature, women have their own role, and over the years, men who are a little stronger, a little more powerful, subjugated and overpowered them. But now we are a modern society, and women they have their rights, they require protection. But there are people who are going around and in the name of women taking advantage of feminism and creating what we would call pseudo feminism. They have no sympathy for women, but they pretend to be by the side of women, which does more harm than good to women and also to the larger society. What we would want is what we would call inclusive feminism, where we understand, men understand women, women understand men, we grow up together, something what we would call complementing each other's strength. So we complement, I am a man, I must complement females because their abilities are different from my abilities, and for males their abilities are different from female abilities. So when God made us in a complementary fashion, we should truly appreciate women for the role that they play and have an inclusive approach to feminism rather than what we would call pseudo feminism. Thank you.
Good morning. It is my proud privilege to introduce you all for the very first time a podcast session organized by the students of Don Bosco Guwahati. It is more of a talk show rather than a podcast. Here we will encourage students to open up their views regarding various topics. This is the first episode, and we will be coming up with many other interesting episodes in future discourse. Here I am, Mrs. Shivani Datta Chaudhary, and my co-host
Sabha from high school.
And here, for the first time, we introduce Bosco 0R. For the very first time, to the most engaging session where brain meets inquiry. And our topic today is pseudo-feminism versus inclusive feminism. And I hand over the mic to Sabha sir now so that he can carry over the session, and then we will start off with Danika introducing the topic.
Thank you, Shivani ma'am. I'll be very brief because I am eager to hear what you have prepared for all of us. Feminism as a theory or a practice or a movement, actually, I'm sure all of you will be well aware of, is the advocacy of women's rights by women themselves. But I will not speak on feminism because all of you are well aware of what feminism is, and I will not harp on it and define it. I'll take just a couple of minutes in reminding you two incidents from the past where feminism had played an important, very, very significant role. One is the role of women in India's national movement. The names are there for all of you. The names that are immediately coming to my mind are Sarojini Naidu, Vijayalakshmi Pandit, and many others. And one is not a recent vintage, one is the Chipko movement. I'm sure all of you would be well aware of the Chipko movement. There also, although Sundarlal Bahuguna was the main brainchild behind it, but as you know, women became important stakeholders in the Chipko movement, and that also was one of the most important feminist movement of a different kind of afforestation that actually caught the headlines. So these are the two important events of history that had a touch of feminism. So without wasting much time, I would like to hand over the mic to Shivani ma'am to carry on with the podcast or the talk show, which ma'am has said very rightly.
So, feminism that we all know, or we have a myth, that is Feminist favors women. But I know most of you here will not agree to this myth. Yes or no, children? So, what is feminism? We seek for equality. We seek for equality. And with that note, we will start our program that we believe in equality of all the gender. Yes, and with that particular note, we are starting our talk show today. I hand over the mic to Nanika to introduce the topic.
Hello to everyone present and everyone watching. There's quite a few of us here today, which is honestly quite surprising considering the topic of our discussion is something most people, as a general rule, tend to shy away from. As you might have guessed, our topic today is centered around women. Let me ask you, what is, or who is rather, a woman? What is it like to be a woman? I'll tell you what I think. Being a woman is not being able to go out at night because you might get raped, or better yet, sexually harassed or sex trafficked, and not even being able to go out in broad daylight for those very same reasons, and especially not alone. Because, oh my god, are you trying to get catcalled? Are you trying to get sexually harassed? To be squashed just for existing? Judged for wearing a short dress or a modest one, then we all know we're going to be sexualized regardless. Torn down for her appearance because at the end of the day, as long as you're pretty, nothing else you do matters, and if you're not pretty, then nothing you ever do will ever matter in this society. No, really. Do you know how many of my own friends and family members I've seen putting down female journalists and politicians for their looks? Like she's too fat, she's too wrinkly, or she's too pretty to be into politics or into journalism. Like as if their beauty has anything to do with their job. Because as far as I know, beauty is supposed to be subjective, right? Especially when it comes to women. Being a woman is a constant battle because I can't like pink, but at the same time I love it. But if I like it, I'm too soft, I'm too feminine. And I can't like anime because then I'm trying too hard to be like one of the boys. And if I like cricket, then oh my god.
Thank you, Nanika. You have articulated the whole thing very well. And here, in this particular talk show, we are not trying to pull down any of the gender. We are seeking for equal existence. We are seeking for that both the two gender can make the world beautiful. And respect for each other. We know that man are somewhere suffering. It's not that man are always the beneficial entity. So, through feminism, through this talk show, we are seeking everyone to regard each and every gender equally, treat everyone equally, both man and women. And that actually is the true essence of feminism, I believe. It's not that only bringing up one gender and putting the other down. Because we know the world cannot continue with one gender. Right? It has to be both the gender shoulder to shoulder. And that is what we are demanding, or that is what we are expecting. And with this, now I would hand over the mic to Ankita Advani to put forward her viewpoint.
We often hear the word feminism, but somewhere along the way, its meaning got tangled. Feminism was created to bring equality and to make sure that men and women stand on the same ground. But over the time, a distorted version of it emerged, which has been dubbed as pseudo feminism or inclusive feminism. You know, it fights for dominance, but not for equality. For instance, imagine a woman saying that we don't need men at all, we can just survive without them. Now, this is not real feminism, this is exclusion. Pseudo-feminism is often rooted to our psychological grooming. Having studied in an all-girls school for more than 10 years of my life, I've seen how this mindset quietly grows. Most of us went through the tomboy phase where we believed that strength meant rejecting everything soft, pink,
or inherently feminine. But we were always taught that femininity was fragile and that softness meant weakness. And that only men were deserving of respect, so we needed to act more manly and more tougher. That's where pseudo feminism often begins. It mirrors the patriarchy's harshness instead of healing it. And misogynists often take advantage of this distorted version, claiming that feminism was all about man hating. And this is not the truth. And as a result, many men grow up hating the very idea of feminism because of their misconception. But feminism was never about hating men or glorifying women. It was about freeing both men and women from the boxes that society had put them into. Um, Feminism aims not to hate men, but to heal women from the generational trauma that our mothers, grandmothers, and every other woman has faced. Thank you.
I would like to ask Ankita a question. Do you believe that pseudo feminism is solely the result of patriarchy, or are there other aspects as well?
Thank you, Fiona, for your question. I would like to answer it as patriarchy not being the sole reason for pseudo feminism, but yes, it is definitely one of the reasons because it emerged as centuries of male dominance and oppression, and women were always conditioned to believe that they were wrong. But when some of the women they realized that they cannot be always wrong, right? So they started pseudo feminism, you can say, as a counter movement to such oppression. Thank you.
I would like to add on to what Ankita said. The thing is, patriarchy is definitely not the sole reason. The thing is, somewhere the idea of equality got confused with superiority, and somehow women started to believe that they can bring empowerment only by taking over the control men once had, and that's where pseudo feminism entered. Now let's talk about what feminism really stands for: inclusivity. What is inclusive feminism? Let's understand this concept by breaking it up. As we all know, that inclusive stands for including a wide range of people, things, ideas, etc. And feminism is the belief and aim that women deserve equal rights and opportunities as men. Inclusive feminism is not about saying that women deserve equal rights. It's about asking which women are we talking about? As Kimberly Crenshaw had once said, that all inequality is not created equal. If we put it simply, the concerns of a middle class working woman might not be the same as the concern of a woman working in the tea plantations of Assam, or a transgender struggling to find acceptance. Historically, feminism has always been exclusive. However, I believe to be a woman is to live many lives within one, to carry not just your own dreams, but also the dreams of many women that history forgot. Inclusive feminism teaches us that my fight, my struggle is incomplete if it does not stand beside a woman who cannot stand for herself. Moreover, I would like to add on that inclusive feminism is not a movement for women, it's a movement for humanity. To see that when a woman is silenced, when a man is shamed for showing his emotions, or when someone is judged for who they are, we all lose a bit of what makes us human.
I would like to clear a point from you. Can feminism truly be called inclusive if it does not include all the classes of our region, then caste, sexuality, and men's issues in the patriarchal setup that we have? Or does the term feminism itself limits inclusivity?
Thank you for your question, Ragini. So, feminism is actually not against men or any other people out there. Feminism is against patriarchy, the system of patriarchy. So, feminism fights for equality, as I've mentioned, and inclusive. The essence of inclusive feminism is to include not just all types of women, but all types of men as well, all caste, As you mentioned in your speech, inclusive feminism claims to represent everyone, but can any movement ever truly include all experiences without losing focus? And I would like to ask that how do you think we should ideally pursue inclusive feminism, making sure it amplifies marginalized voice without speaking for them? Thank you, Rilakshi. It's actually a very good question. So, yeah, as you said that it's a long struggle actually. Like the point we have reached now, like it has taken many years to reach the point where it did now. So, of course, including a wide range of people, as I've mentioned, all marginalized people, it will take the same amount of time as well. So, all we can do is to see it not just as my struggle or her struggle, to see as our struggle. So, yeah, that's it. And now, since this is a time where technology is actually expanding, so I think it's much more easier than it was before to include a wide range of people. So I view inclusive feminism not from the perspective of a woman or a female. I view inclusive feminism from the perspective of a human. Feminism has always been about inclusion. In the first wave, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it was about women fighting for the right to vote and own property. Second wave in the 1960s and 1970s focused on workplace equality and social rights. In the third wave in the 1990s brought intersectionality, realizing that not all women face the same struggles. And fourth wave is about inclusivity, this is the fourth wave, and it's a step-by-step movement. Equality that we seek now cannot come in for 1 second. It is a process, and we are still in that process, and maybe we will live that future one day.
So I'm amazed to hear some beautiful comments, viewpoints of our children thinking at that particular level about feminism. Now, so long we have been hearing from all girls, or all women rather, I can say. Now let's see what Bhaskar has to say. A man's perspective on feminism. I think all girl or all the women out here, matured women sitting here, you're waiting for his viewpoint, right? Yes. So let's hear from Bhaskar now.
As Meghna spoke about inclusive feminism, the idea that everyone deserves a voice in equality. And so today, being a male voice, I am here not to speak against feminism, but to speak with it. You know, the moment a man says, I support feminism, the room changes. Eyes roll, some smirk, and some whisper, oh, he's one of them. This is because somewhere deep inside, our male society has started believing that the concept of feminism is only meant for female, as it is like a female-only club. But wait for a second and ask why. Why is it the moment a man supports equality, he is labeled as too emotional, too soft, and in worse, less masculine? The word feminism might be seen that it has been derived from the word female, but the soul of feminism has nothing to do with gender. It has everything to do with equality and justice. Inclusive feminism, as Meghna already mentioned, means equality is not about muscles. It's about the mindsets of people. It's not about the one who lift heavy weights. It's about the one who carries heavier expectations. A feminist man does not try to prove that he is equal to a woman by just imitating her. He proves it by respecting her choices, her struggles, and her voice. And a feminist woman does not degrade a man to rise. She rises with him together. Growing up as a boy, I learned early that masculinity has a strange rule book. A boy who does not play rough games, he is less of a man. A boy who remains quiet and does not join others in their derogatory activities, he is labeled as a female. A boy who remains quiet and shows empathy, society calls him weak. And feminism wants to end this cycle, not just for male and not just for female, but for everyone. And so, I request all men, why we are scared of the term feminism? Why we think that supporting feminism will stripe out our masculinity? Is equality is such a threat to our pride that we did rather mock it than understanding it? The truth is, feminism never said that men and women are physically identical. Biology made us different, of course, but difference does not mean dominance. And the truth is, the ability to lift up weight does not make one stronger in character, but the strength to uplift someone is called the real power. And therefore, feminism is not anti-men. It is against inequality. So, my dear men, it's time to rethink. Feminism is not against us, it includes us. It calls us to end our own chains of ego and entitlement. So, let's not be the generation that loves that feminism. Let's be the one who lives it. Because equality is not a favor women ask for, it is the responsibility men must stand for. And therefore, feminism is not a women's movement. It is a human movement. And it's time that we men to join it. And remember, the future is not female. The future is fair. Thank you.
The term feminism, that it is not about women, it is about both, right? So now I would like to hand over the mic to Ragini again. She needs to clear out certain points.
Today's generation is quite acquainted with the term feminism, yet we see many men feel alienated by the discourse of feminism. In your opinion, what do you think? Is it because pseudo-feminists are misrepresenting the movement, or is it because men are unwilling to acknowledge their privileges?
Thank you, Ragini, for the question. I believe in the second one because I think that men from the childhood, they grew with the perspective that male, they are superior and female, they are inferior. And even if we are acknowledged that gender-based discrimination is against the human society, we deny to accept it. And the privileges that we are enjoying, we think that they are hereditary. So I think that they are not willing to acknowledge the privileges that they are enjoying.
I would like to ask Bhaskar a question. How can men contribute to feminism without being criticized?
Thank you, Parnika. I think it's through acting and not announcing. Like, for example, in a school, if we see a female student getting assaulted by a male student, then we should be the one who will raise our voices, because feminism does not require validation. It requires participation. So I think that it's our perspective actually.
Yeah, students, before we take a break, both for the machine and for us as humans, I would like to actually state a couple of points, maybe one or two, which really felt I was actually overwhelmed by the mature points of all of you, because I remember some of you were my students in class 8, 9 and 10. So you have grown up, and the views are so mature that I'm getting goosebumps. Second, Bhaskar's point from a male perspective, it really touched me. Why? I was just talking to Shivani ma'am. As he spoke, I'll just expand to what he had said. Men or boys or men, if they are ultra sensitive or emotional, and if they are caring husbands or boyfriends, they are mocked at. Okay, so that actually takes away the very essence of what all of you have spoke. You've seen reels, right? Reels, recently married couples who were in love for a long, long time, very young, in the late 20s, early 30s, cooking in the kitchen together, and one is marinating the fish. One is so. These are the things which you should take. Only then can a happy house and can become a happy home. Actually, this is my personal point of view. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask a question to Bhaskar. In most of the rape and sexual harassment cases, where a man is guilty, of course, he is punished. But in a few rare cases, where even if the man is not guilty, he is believed to be, or rather framed to be guilty by the girl's family in order to defend the girl. What is your take on that?
That's a good question, Harshita. I do believe that false accusations do happen, and when they do, they destroy lives. But we cannot ignore the truth. Like, according to the US Department of Justice, 99% of the rape and sexual harassment cases, the victims are always women and the perpetrators are always the men. But being a true feminist, I will neither blame the entire male population nor the female population. I think if a male commits a rape, he should not be seen as a male rapist. He should be seen as a human rapist, because rape is itself an assault on humanity. And the justice system should be balanced and not gendered, because if a woman's voice has a right to be heard, then a male's defense should also has a right to be heard. Thank you.
Bhaskar, while speaking, you mentioned that it is a human movement and not a female movement. Then why feminism and not humanism?
I think that females are the ones who are being discriminated from centuries, and they are being denied their basic rights of vote and education. And if we men, we are the part of the problem, then we should also be the part of the solution. So I think that the word feminism is not only it is confined to women, but it also include men, because the word man, it itself is included in the word women. So that's my answer.
I'd like to add on to what Bhaskar just said about why feminism and not humanism, as Divisha asked, because feminism started as a women's movement, and we will continue to use the name feminism because it is still essentially a women's movement. It is still centered around women. Yes, we have included other genders or other classes, castes, or everything else into the fold, but it is still centrally a women's issue. Yes, it has expanded to incorporate humanity as well, but it is still a women's issue, and it will continue to remain so because we have been silenced the longest, and thus we want to express ourselves the most. And humanism is a completely a related thing, but not essentially synonymous to feminism, because feminism is about women and other genders included into our fold.
So here we end the introductory session of explaining the terms what is pseudo feminism and what is inclusive feminism, and we tried to clear out the terms so that the layman can also understand, and each and every people try and get what we want to say. We don't want, again I repeat, we don't want domination of one gender, neither man nor women, but we seek equality. With that, now we will start off with the second session, the social impact of pseudo-feminism and inclusive feminism. So I hand over the mic to Mrigakshi. She will give us her viewpoint about the social impact of pseudo-feminism in our society. Mrigakshi?
We have all been constantly hearing the terms pseudo-feminism and inclusive feminism, right? So let us now dive into what the society has to say about pseudo-feminism, rather the societal view about pseudo-feminism. So for a matter of fact, the term feminism that we have all been currently vouching for, it is a term that is very strong, very prominent, and very necessary for the society, in fact. However, lately, it has come to our notice that whenever a person uses this word, there is a constant sense of irritation, a sense of avoidance, a sense of not being able to understand it, or more in fact, not being committed to understand this at all. And this reaction did not just come out of nowhere. It has come out because the society began to see feminism through the lens of pseudo-feminists. Even today, in reality, when a woman stands for herself, who she claims to be as a feminist, she is regarded as that she is arrogant, she's aggressive, she's entitled, she is not worthy of us. We should not focus on her. And this is not her fault entirely, because the pseudo culture of feminism, it has entirely twisted the narrative of feminism. We see it almost every day on social media platforms where feminism turns out to be a buzzword. It becomes trending only for the sake of likes or views to become popular. And it basically dilutes the genuine feminists, the feminism the struggles that they have been carrying for years and years. And today, we have reached to a certain level of what we wanted to accomplish, but it is not entire at all. It is not the whole. We have much more to go for. So let us not make this a social media trend where genuine feminists are turned to be attention seeking, they're attention seekers, which is not true at all, right? And as we know, feminism, it stands for equality. And for a matter of fact, I would like to say that men and women cannot be considered equal in terms of biologically. They cannot be considered equal physically because it is not fundamentally possible. But equality in their social lives, equality in the terms of equal respect, equal treatment, equal pay, this all should be considered, because feminism is not about I deserve more because I am a woman. It is about I deserve the same because I am a human being. Thank you.
Before I hand over the mic to Anshuman, again, I would like to actually congratulate Mrigakshi for her mature views, which actually validated the point, actually. So it was clear and evident what you wanted to say, and actually that is the essence of this particular podcast. So without further ado, I would like to hand over the mic to Anshuman to put forward his views.
Inequality doesn't exist in separate boxes. When heat waves strike urban slums in India, it's often women who have to walk for water, who have to walk miles for water, facing both poverty and gender-based discrimination. So, intersectional feminism explains us how oppression based on race, caste, gender, or ability intertwines and multiplies. Therefore, inclusive feminism builds on this idea, pushing for a movement where all women, marginalized gender, including queer, disabled, and indigenous voices are represented. More examples of, there are more historical examples that shows this. For example, women suffragists of US like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Stanton are widely appreciated for giving women the right to vote. But black women, then indigenous and Asian women, for example, Mabel Ting Wali, Zitkala Shah, and other feminists are not appreciated much more for the fight for women to give a vote.
The fact that even now we are still debating on what feminism truly means shows us how complicated society has made something that is so simple: equality. My view is very much like what Emma Watson said in the UN campaign of He for She in 2014. She said, if men don't have to be aggressive in order to be accepted, women won't feel compelled to be submissive. Emma Watson's words remind us that feminism includes men and the pressures they feel to be strong, to never show weakness, to never cry, to control. Society has created a standard for a man that links masculinity with control. And when that happens, we automatically create its opposite, which is submission, and which is expected from women always. And we are all trapped into this unspoken performance of what a proper woman or a proper man should be. And somewhere along the way, the idea of inequality got confused with the idea of superiority. It became a sort of a power struggle between the two genders. And somewhere along the way, women started believing that they can be empowered only by taking over the control men once had, and that's not what feminism is. That's just another kind of inequality.
That's right, Karthia. As Laurel Thatcher once said, well-behaved women seldom make history. History does not shift when we whisper. History shifts when a voice long denied finally rises. But acknowledging women's issue does not mean that we will ignore the men's struggles. Men are caged. They are caged by expectations. The expectations to provide. The expectations to never show emotions. The expectations to be the breadwinner. And this too is the result of patriarchy, the very system feminism seeks to dismantle. It's important to note that feminism does not say women above men. It says no one is above anyone. If we rise together. And if we fall together. However, we cannot be blind to distortions. There are many women who use this movement as a means to hate on men. But it's important to note that a few extremists does not ruin the beauty of the movement that feminism is. Just as a corrupt priest does not invalidate spirituality, a misinformed activist does not make equality wrong. What we must fight is bigotry, the refusal to think and the refusal to evolve. There are patriarchal men who are fearful of women's independence, and there are hateful women who think that men don't deserve to be equals. What we need is a change in the way we think, a change in the way we evolve.
But again, here is the thing. We cannot dismiss pseudo-feminism altogether because it came from a voice that was unheard for so long because of centuries of misogyny. And after years of being told that one is less, isn't it human nature to want control, or is that still a privilege reserved only for men? You may have heard about the author George Eliot, but do we know that she was actually Mary Ann Evans? She adopted a male pen name just in order to be heard. There is this famous author, F. Scott Fitzgerald, who wrote The Great Gatsby. Do we know that he stole most of his work from his wife's journals? And from this underestimated voice came up misandry, came up pseudo-feminism. And that is why we cannot dismiss it. Yes, it's misdirected, but it's still a voice that's waiting to be understood. Because somehow in this society, misogyny is still intertwined into very small aspects of life. We see misogyny in every aspect. It's in how a girl with opinions is called to have an attitude. But with a guy with the same confidence is called a leader. It's when a woman earns more than her husband and people whisper like it's a crime. It's when we say he helped with the dishes as if it isn't his home as well. When headlines say she balanced her career and motherhood as if men don't have families as well. It's when girls post about feminism online, but they get DMs saying not all men. Instead of men saying how can we help. And the worst part is, it's so normal in our day-to-day lives that not only men but even women fail to notice that.
I agree with your points, Khyati, but I personally feel we should not allow pseudo-feminism just because misogyny exists. The very reason misogyny persists even now is because of the rampant rise in pseudo-feminism. And I agree with whatever you said. I agree that women have been long suppressed historically, but that does not give us a basis to allow pseudo-feminism. Another thing that I'd like to talk about is the not all men lie. I personally feel that that is extremely derogatory towards men because not all men are like that. And that's completely true. The way my father has raised me, it will be completely different from a man who's locked behind the bars because he abused a woman. Isn't that true, Khyati?
Well, I have the perfect response from to this, which actually there was this video I saw like in social media, I think. So the line "not all men," but let me tell you. Okay, imagine I'm a person sitting here and I say I'm scared of drowning. I'm scared of swimming. I'm scared of water. So will I not be scared of a pond, river and a swimming pool as well? Or will I be just scared of a pond and river and not of swimming pools? Because it's like saying I'm scared of a river or I'm scared of a swimming pool but not a pond. And here the metaphor is the water. The thing is, if I'm scared of drowning, I'll be scared of everything there is. And as it has been mentioned previously in this podcast, according to statistics given by Bhaskar, it has always been men oppressing. Through history has shown us that there has been centuries of misogyny, and due to that, the perspective of females has been we are scared of men because that is how we've been conditioned, and that is also a result of patriarchy and misogyny. And that is what I mentioned very first, that everything is somehow intertwined in misogyny and patriarchy.
Yes, Khyati, I totally agree with whatever you said. But as you mentioned, you have been raised by a single father. So isn't it a little sad if your father gets to know that the term not all men, but always a man is going around? I think that needs to be dismissed. I'm a feminist. Anyone who's not a feminist is not sane. But the line not all men, but always a man is really hurtful to the feelings of the many men who are fighting to uplift women. If Raja Ram Mohan Roy today heard that the line not all men, but always a man is going around, he'll be pretty sad as well. What we need to understand that this isn't a war. This is a conversation about how we can uplift society, how we can uplift the status of women in our society so that both have equal rights, equal respect, equal dignity, and equal fairness.
My question is to you, Devashri. As she mentioned a lot about Emma Watson and the authors of history, but I want to take this question to our country. As India is a country which is based on and formed by religion, what are your thoughts on inclusive feminism, sometimes ignoring culture or religious context in the name of universality?
Very nice question, Lakshi. But I personally feel that in today's day and age, we need to go ahead and evolve and forget a little about the culture that we are trying so hard to protect, which is still suppressing women in this day and age. There were many women in history, in Indian history to be specific, who were standing for women's rights, be it Savitri Bai or Gargi, who were discussing philosophical discourses back when the world was learning how to think. Now, we must remove all the malpractices that our culture has and move ahead in a world that is modernized and ready for tomorrow.
Devarshi, you said the point about not all men, but always a man, how it's so degradatory to men itself, those who stand up for women. But I don't think you're acknowledging the fact about how a woman, when she walks home at night, she's scared of any man that is beside her, because society has proven point and point that men are not always considerate, that men have proven many times to be rapists, to be sexually assaulted, domestic violence. The fact that India has shown highlights of female feticides and gang rapes highlighting news every day. We are not here to blame men, but the fact that men get so defensive when we talk about the injustice that women face, this is why feminism is needed. We are not here to uplift women and degrade men. We are trying to base equilibrium. But the fact that you said not all men, but always a man is quite degradatory, is the main fact that why we stand here today to prove that men and women need to be equal. We cannot ignore the injustice faced by women, but we cannot blame men itself. But we cannot ignore that it's men that have put a chokehold on men for centuries. Thank you.
Said Saira, women feel extremely unsafe whenever they walk out of their homes at night. Like even at daytime they feel unsafe. But I think that to dismiss all men and class them as a single unit is a little counterintuitive. I think instead of saying not all men but always a men, we should go ahead with more neutral terms instead of being such extremists. I think this very movement needs men as well. Only women can't go ahead. With the help of men, with the help of everyone, only then can we move ahead. Yes, women feel unsafe. I think there are only a few women around us who have never been abused in any physical way. And that's extremely sad. But that needs to change. We need to go ahead and build a society where women feel safe. But that will start when women stop hating on men and men stop hating on women altogether.
Said how we don't need umbrella terms for all men, but not all men, but always a man is not saying speaking about all men. If you're a man who is against patriarchy, why are you offended by it? We are not referring to you. We are referring to people who are supporting patriarchy. If you're, and it's not only a phrase about man. We have many phrases going about women who are much more derogatory than this. So why are you offended by it? It's not about you.
No, I think these phrases need to be dismantled altogether, be it a man using it or a woman, because at the end of the day, they are not used to preach feminism. They are used in the comment section of Instagram reels to hate on men or either on women.
We encourage criticisms, we encourage discussion, but I don't want that this goes on to become a Cold War here. Yes. So we have come here for a solution, right? We did not come for again complicating the matters. We know women are always in shackles from the time she takes birth till the death. That shackle we want to break. And for that, both the gender needs to work together. Yes, that I think so. That is why this platform. And that understanding, when we started, we thought of this plan of talking, somebody commented, boys will have a different view about feminism. I don't want that. When this session ends, both man and women standing for women or both the genders. Firstly, I'm surprised how everyone who spoke before me, they're saying they demand equality for everyone. Yet our very definition of everyone conveniently excludes transgender, non-binary, intersex or all other sexes. Equality means nothing when visibility is selective. Inclusive feminism is not and never was meant to be limited to the binary of men and women only. It demands respect and recognition for all sexes. You cannot call it equality when all other sexes are still fighting to be seen as human. Feminism is a word
that's born out of struggle, not superiority. It's a movement demanding equality and justice instead of dominance. Yet this word is misunderstood, but more often mispresented. Pseudo-feminism disguises itself as empowerment, but it reeks of hypocrisy. It thrives on distortion, turning a fight for equality into a battle of hostility. It is not a war between two sexes. It is a collective fight against patriarchy, discrimination, all the rigid gender norms that harm everyone. Inclusive feminism challenges patriarchy, not people. But when it is twisted into pseudo-feminism, which is a self-serving narrative, society starts viewing feminism as aggression rather than empowerment. When women demand safety or when men speak up as allies, they are mocked as attention seekers. When someone tries to advocate equality without aggression, they are told they are not feminist enough. This is exactly how genuine feminism gets strangled between outrage and ignorance. This confusion fuels resentment, justifying violence in the name of restoring balance, protecting honor. But it is nothing more than a defense of outdated power and fragile egos. Women and transgender people are still being murdered in the name of honor, tradition, reputation, morality. These are not isolated incidents. They are hate crimes wrapped in the illusion of culture. And the world watches, distracted by petty debates about who's more woke. I would like to include some figures here. The United Nations conducted a study where they found out in 2023, around 51,100 women or girls were killed worldwide by their intimate partners or family members, which means on average, 140 women or girls are killed every day by someone in their own family. In Ethiopia, girls were sold into early marriage in exchange of livestock to help their families cope with droughts. In 2024, 350 transgender people were murdered and increased from 321 the previous year. Aren't these numbers really disturbing? These incidents do not occur because feminism has failed. They occur because we as a society has failed to understand what feminism and what its essence is. Feminism is not a fashion statement. It's a fight for survival. It's not about proving women are better. It's about proving that no one deserves to be lesser. Let me just remind everyone that equality loses its meaning the very moment we decide who qualifies for it.
So I think the key takeaway from all this is that feminism, even though it emerged as a movement to talk about women's rights, it is a much broader, bigger fight. It's a fight against a systemic issue. It's a fight against patriarchy and anybody who is a victim to it. Men can be a victim to it. Women are the primary victims, obviously. People who do not identify into the gender binary can be a victim to it. So it's a movement to fight for everybody's right to express themselves freely. A queer person's right to express themselves freely, men's right to express themselves, women. And also, let's go beyond this and understand it this way, that it is also not about making women equal to men. It's not about letting a woman be whatever a man can be, but letting a woman be the best that she can be. Why do we have to compare ourselves? Like, why does the standard have to relate to men? Why can't women grow independently? But this is not feminist. Pseudo-feminism is ignorant. It is selective in what it supports and who it supports, and only supported when it benefits oneself. When you say that a burqa is oppressive, you're again telling a woman how she needs to be, and that's exactly what you're not supposed to do. Because the burqa, it's an identity for a lot of women. They have in history, they have worn it as a sign of resistance against colonialism to establish their identity as Muslim women. So it's not a sign of
So a bikini is not more liberating than a burqa, and we need to stop using these kind of things to compare the degree of freedom women have in different societies. So let's come back to our own country. Do you remember the Shaheen Bagh incident that happened in 2019? It was a protest against the Citizenship Amendment Act, and it was started by Muslim women, grandmothers, mothers. But the movement was narrowed down to a citizenship movement. The fact that women were so integral, so primary, fundamental to it did not receive as much attention as it should have. It was started off by an 82-year-old Muslim woman, Bilqis Dadi, but we forgot about her. So feminism does not have to be grand. It does not have to be it does not have to be always, the boldest, in the sense that it's the little things, the little protests that our mothers, our grandmothers do to establish their identities. Thank you.
Tika and Bhumashri putting forward their valued viewpoints. We are now concluding the second phase, and we are now into the final phase of our debate or podcast. Here we shall actually bring in those judicial and logical conclusions. What are the takeaways that this particular podcast has given us? And more importantly, we need to agree rather than to differ and disagree. That is the basic essence of this podcast. So for the next two participants, may I hand over the mic to Shibani ma'am.
I believe we will take some very good message from this discussion. Yes, not only seeking equality, let's stop debating. Let's maturely understand that a world cannot be complete with one gender. Let's take that message to the people, to the world, to the community. And now, concluding the entire session, I would like to hand over the mic to Christina and Rinav and give some logical solution to the matter.
When we talk about feminism, we often forget that it isn't a competition for genders. It's one of the movements for equality. Yet, one of the biggest misconceptions is that feminism is anti-men.
But what you said right now about anti-man, I've been wanting to ask this after Bhaskar's speech. He also mentioned that feminism, men participating in feminism should be not for validation but humanity. But there are some men who portray or project themselves as feminists just for the sake of the other genders or the opposite genders' approval or validation. So about just what you said about anti-man, I'll have to oppose to that.
I believe true feminism isn't about reversing oppression. It's about removing it altogether. And misconceptions are one thing that can spread very easily. There are instances where a few loud voices tend to overshadow the real message.
I think I can give an example. My friend Megakshi here, she said, when a girl, she expresses herself as a feminist, she is often said to be arrogant and is misunderstood to be a misandrist.
What's misandrist?
Misandrists, they're people, mostly girls, who say that they hate men and try to oppress them, and they like to publicize it a lot.
I'd like to add one statement that many might disagree here with. I believe that religion is a huge factor that has created this division in here. People still ignore it. People are still not trying to believe that religion is the division, is what's creating that division. And again, that's where pseudo-feminism comes in as well. Pseudo-feminism is when people claim to support gender equality but use the label only when it benefits themselves or justify bias against others.
So we can say that pseudo-feminism is like a weapon for misogynists, This justifies them not giving power and equality to women. Because I think they assume that when women are given equality and power, they might turn the tables and overthrow the world that is full of their ideas, not ours. And in real life, we are not even being oppressed. You see, pseudo-feminism, as I've heard from everyone here, these are just ideologies that should be eliminated before it is implicated in the society.
Social media is a big factor in publicizing it a lot now. And then there's inclusive feminism, the idea that feminism should support everyone. But even this faces its own challenges. Some argue that it dilutes the idea of feminism or make it too complicated.
What's dilution of feminism?
Taking away from the basic, main, real objective of feminism and adding other causes to it, such as LGBTQ rights and many other causes. Yeah. The truth now is that these internal debates and outside criticism faced by the movement make it harder for the newcomers to participate. But at the same time, this also shows that the movement is in fact growing.
In fact, I like to say, you know how old women, they are so deeply conditioned by the men of the household that they try to push their ideologies into the newer generations by, they would judge their appearances, like how short is your dress, or, haircuts. He mentioned once about haircuts, how short is your haircut, or if they have tattoos, etc., etc.
The real challenge now, I think, that it isn't just about breaking stereotypes in the society, breaking the stereotypes relating to feminism itself.
And I like to talk about something my friend Divisha and Madak once mentioned. They said how misandrists, they don't take away the rights of men, but misogyny always takes away the right of women. That's it from me.
I'd like to conclude with, true feminism doesn't ask the question who benefits more. It asks the question, why should anyone benefit any less?
Like Christina and Mito said, there are a lot of misconceptions about feminism. And it's really important to clear all these misconceptions. Social media is the root cause where all these misconceptions rise.
Yes, Prayag, that is actually true. Much of the hate comes from the online myths. We, as a younger generation, should talk about what real feminism means, instead of the social media feminism.
Yes, and that's why I believe feminism is not just a theory. It's the way we behave in our everyday lives by noticing biases at schools, at homes, or even between our friends.
And small actions matter. Every little step can create a difference, even if adults don't take us seriously yet.
That makes sense. Change doesn't always need a grand gesture. It requires personal awareness and everyday actions.
Hence, I believe microfeminism is extremely important, like speaking up while being interrupted, sharing credits, or not just even laughing at gender-biased jokes. These small acts create a larger change.
Right. It's not about one big revolution. It's about steady progress. Women are free. They are free in nature, and freedom cannot be granted.
Yes, we should stop objectifying women, make them feel seen, and teach the boys to share responsibility. Equality should feel normal, not special.
Feminism is therefore just letting girls exist as themselves, ambitious, flawed, strong, or even soft. Equality is not about the sameness, it's about the respect. Like we can see in many wedding rituals that women are required to seek blessings of their husbands by touching their feet. Nowadays we can see men are reciprocating this ritual, which is seen as such a big and huge act. But when women do it, it's very normal. Why is this so? And we can also see when women get married off, they are required to act in such a certain certain way. But men just remain the same. There is no difference in men. We can see many other examples of such behavior that is so very normalized for women, but when men do it, it's so extraordinary.
Yes, Anagrika, I agree with you. Most of us come across or observe many wedding videos around social media where a man touches the feet of his wife. So and many are ashamed of doing that. So I personally think that the woman whom you love or you promise to spend your entire life with, there's nothing wrong in touching her feet. Being gentle, being respectful towards women is nothing to be ashamed of. It's just a basic value that a man should have in a society.
Well, this ritual is not only seen in the Assamese community or culture, it is seen overall. If we take the example of Karwa Chauth, the male, if he practices Karwa Chauth in the place of the woman and fast for the woman, he is mocked. And when the woman fasts for the better health and prosperity of the male, it is seen that it is her responsibility.
Society should value women's work, resilience, which is often goes unseen.
Awareness only matters if we practice it ourselves. Less show and more empathy.
Therefore, according to us, feminism is not just a theory or a topic to discuss. It's something to live by, and equality should be the default, not the demand. Thank you. In my opinion, feminism has never been about the superiority of one gender over another. To me, it has always been about fairness, the personality you have, the status based on your merits. Feminism has never been about attacking. It has always been about empowering all genders. The message nowadays gets lost that pseudo-feminism is not actual feminism. It now acts like a shield, a barrier, a wall to justify acts of aggravation, aggression, discrimination, and hatred. When people misuse this term, it sets back the progress of actual feminists such as Mary Wollstonecraft, Betty Friedan, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Feminism, to me, is about quiet strength. It's about respect. It's about standing up for what is right without putting anyone else down. It's saying men and women, they all deserve a safe place to feel, speak, and exist. So let us all remember, this is not a woman's issue. It is a human's issue. I would like to hand the mic to Kushali. This entire discourse of the discussions we had, I've been noting down, and everyone's views and opinions have been really reflective for me, and I have come to have taken all of them equally, and we cannot dismiss any opinion as such, because every opinion or every view leads to the entire amalgamation of the concept and how we view it and how we should view it. Feminism is, well, a concept mostly misunderstood, and today we also talked about the influence of its distorted shadow, pseudo-feminism. Real feminism is rooted in equality, and also importantly in equity, because we have to acknowledge the fact that men and women differ in biology and psychology as well. I feel the most and main obstacle in our path is ignorance. May it be deep-rooted in the misogyny that arose from the patriarchal society by both men and women, or by the modern-day dynamics that reinforces those concepts in a different manner. May it be by the influence of new social media or the pop culture references that we keep on that somehow passively reinforces those concepts that we need to dismiss. Now the problem with pseudo-feminism is that it dilutes our main purpose, and it makes people averse to the beauty of this struggle and the need for it. Feminism is not about replacing one bias with another, but removing all bias altogether. How we can proceed or walk in this path is that we need to first reflect on ourselves and question the challenges that come our way, because it's not only just about being aware. We need to acknowledge the fact that most of us are
not just it's not only about blaming the men or men blaming the women that they are blamed for. It's also acknowledging, because most of us, most women even don't know that that is wrong and which is correct. That is the questions that we need to ask for ourselves, and we need to encourage to ask, because a lot of times all these problems arise from the deep-rooted conditioning that goes through. It is the gender roles are not just created by men alone. When the conditioning is done in parenting through early stages, it is not only the father who teaches the different gender roles to the girls and boys. It is also by the moms who teach the gender roles. It is being conditioned. That is how we act. It is not about being wrong or being right in a particular situation or a circumstance. It's about how we question those wrongdoings and how we know to voice ourselves. I would like to add on, when Bhaskar talked about his point of view of feminism, Parmika had asked the question, how can men be involved without criticism? I think it is high time that we not care about criticism. We need to take criticism in a healthy manner, but also challenge those narrow-minded conceptions that come our way, because that is the whole goal of it. We need to question those. We need to challenge them, and from them make a new or a broader perspective to arise, and do not validate those age-old conceptions or the wrong misconceptions that we reinforce somehow passively. That is all I have to say.
Good evening and welcome to Bosco 0 Hour, Pseudo versus Inclusive Feminism. I'd like to congratulate and thank Ma'am Sivani and Sharsada, along with the students who took part actively during the podcast. How eager and excited our students were to be part of this podcast. Our students have done extensive research and have shared valuable insights during the podcast. So I will not dive into the topic. Have a look into the valuable insights shared by our students. I'm very happy that our students are keeping themselves engaged into something productive. A learning process wherein they engage, debate, and share the valuable insights, and also becoming aware of the issues that are there in the society, some of the topics that they dive in, some of the issues that they bring is something pertaining to our current scenario and the issues that are there in the society. And this kind of podcast wherein they engage among the students will become an enriching and learning experience wherein later on they'll be able to think critically, analyze logically, and come up with some logical solutions for the betterment of the society. I wish and like to convey to our students to keep themselves engaged and eagerly awaiting for the next podcast. Congratulations once again to all the students who took active part during the podcast Bosco 0 Hour, Pseudo versus Inclusive Feminism. Thank you.